Hello. Today I want to talk about the new Star Trek movie, Into Darkness, which I just happened to recently see, and I thought I'd come and share my thoughts and feelings with you about this new Star Trek movie. Well, first of all, let me just say that overall, I do think it was a good movie on its own merits. Now, I'll be up front and say I'm not a really huge fan of the new continuity for Star Trek. It's got a lot of great things going for it, but there's a whole lot of me that still longs for the old classic Star Trek. And so it is what it is. Taken on its own merits, just like the first one, it's a really good action sci-fi movie. Is it good Star Trek? Well, maybe. Let's talk about some of the things in specific. And of course, there will be spoilers here, so if for some reason you still haven't seen it yet, you may not want to watch the rest of the video, because I am going to get into some things. First of all, let me tell you about some of the things I liked. One, overall, I thought the acting was very good. There was a lot of great interplay between the actors and actresses. The script had put in a good amount of witty banter to sort of break up the pace, and the delivery was great. The interaction and interplay between the characters really worked. There's some real chemistry going on between those actors, and that's some of the strongest points in the movie. That was one of the things I liked. It's exciting, it's action-packed, it keeps going, the pacing's good, it keeps moving along, you don't get bored with it. It's a really good action sci-fi movie. So, even if you're not a big super Star Trek fan and you just want a good sci-fi action movie, Star Trek Into Darkness is worth getting on video. It really is. Now, let me get into some of the things that I necessarily didn't like. Also, I even thought the story was pretty good. The whole con was good, even though they sort of did a new reverse twist on the ending of The Wrath of Khan. I think it actually worked well. The whole MacGuffin about Khan's blood being able to heal people. Okay, it was a MacGuffin, it worked and everything. But here's some of the things that just bother me about the new thing, and basically, I'll be up front, they're all nitpicky Star Trek things. I will say the lens flare wasn't as bad in this movie. I think he did listen. Abrams, thank you for listening to the people. Lens flare, not so great, okay? Now, one of the things that I didn't like was some of the visuals, mainly, like, for instance, the uniforms. I like the regular red and gold and blue uniforms. They're great. It's the other uniforms that they wore in the rest of the movie were god ugly. Those gray, charcoal gray things were like the ugliest uniforms I have ever seen. And then there was, I think at one point, the evil admiral, he's wearing something, a throwback from Star Trek the Motion Picture sort of type uniform, and I'm going like, oh, you didn't need to bring that back. So that can just go totally away. Other things, had to do with nitpicky continuity things that relate to the story. First off, in the beginning of the movie, you have this scene where there's this planet and it's this primitive society, and the volcano's about to blow up, and they prevent the volcano from blowing up, but they're seen by the natives, and of course the natives are going to worship, and there's this whole, non-interference directive, shall we say, Spock. There was a whole bunch of questions. Well, first of all, if you're saving the natives from a natural disaster, you're already breaking the non-interference directive. Really. So you might as well just go the whole way and not worry about being seen by the natives, because you're already saving them when probably nature intended them to be utterly destroyed. Second of all, why was the Enterprise in the ocean other than to just do a cool effect to say we can? Their sensors and everything should have been able to do everything from orbit. I can't think of any reason why they should have been under the water off the coastline. Then the other thing about the whole cold fusion bomb that stopped the volcano, that's not what cold fusion is, okay? Call it a cold bomb or an ice bomb or something, but a cold fusion, cold fusion doesn't work that way. That's about starting a fusion reaction at normal temperatures without having to do a fission reaction to start a fusion reaction. That's not about freezing volcanic lava. And then I always wondered, would that really work? I mean, because really, wouldn't that just create a crust that later the pressure from inside the planet would push it back out again and reform the volcano somewhere else? Wouldn't it be almost easier just to have the indigenous population move to a safer part of the planet? But no, none of that happened. None of that happened. And of course, that's a lot of analysts for a sort of throwaway scene at the beginning. Then you get into the main stuff, and there was just a lot of technical issues that really annoyed me, like the whole thing with Khan, after he attacks the admirals, transports himself to Kronos with a transporter. Not a starship, he didn't transport to a waiting starship hidden in the solar system and books it out to the Klingon homeworld. No, he beams himself to the Klingon homeworld. They don't have that technology level in Star Trek, even like hundreds of years later. How come in this alternate timeline suddenly they've just figured out how to beam like an eighth of a way across the galaxy? I mean, if they could do that, you get to the point where you don't need starships anymore. They could attack Kronos and just beam bombs or troops over to Kronos. I mean, anyway, that whole was a major annoying plot point for me. And then the whole thing that they actually did go to Kronos and snag Khan, and try to prevent the war. I'm thinking they would have still had the Klingon War. The way the series of events in the movie went about, they still would have ended up going to war with the Klingons. And secondly, why is there a Klingon neutral zone? Because I thought that was established by the Organian Treaty, which in this timeline they haven't met the Organians as far as I know, so there wouldn't be the establishment of an Organian neutral zone with the Klingons. Then the fact that didn't they acted like this would have been like the first war with the Klingons, but I think even in the old continuity there was a previous war with the Klingons before you get to the original 5-year mission period, and there was almost another one which the Organians stopped. And so I don't know how they're leading into this. It was interesting though that they did show in this whole line of ships, and they did have the Enterprise NX-1. So apparently, Archer and all them is still canon continuity. That period apparently still wasn't changed by the reverse of the timeline. It's just everything from the original series on. Which I wish they had just gone and said when they did the reboot that this is just an alternate reality with no connection to the other Star Trek universe. And I would have been happy, but to go and screw the timeline over, and now, Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager and all that, none of that happened now. None of that exists now. Or if it exists, it'll be in a vastly altered form because of the altered timeline. But anyway, that's another huge nitpick thing for me. Oh gosh, what other things really annoyed me in the movie? Oh! The scene where the Enterprise escapes from the big dreadnought and the dreadnought catches up with them because they imply that they've got trans-warp technology already. which is another thing because apparently Scotty invented it. I understand, but he invented it like years and years earlier here in the new timeline. Transwarp technology, the Dreadnought catches up with them. It fires on the Enterprise and it gets knocked out of warp and come out. Okay, there's a couple of things. First of all, we know generally back like from the motion picture that you can't fire your phasers at warp, so you're just shooting photon torpedoes. The other thing is, as far as I know, you don't normally have your shields up at warp. So when that Dreadnought caught up with them and fired like 3 or 4 torpedoes at the Enterprise, it should have blown it to smithereens since it shouldn't have had its shields up. There should have been nothing left of that ship. Totally blown up. So that I couldn't suspend disbelief on that. I mean, you know, you can understand when, you know, you got your shields up and you're taking some damage and stuff like that. But when you got no shields up and you get a hit, even with 1 photon torpedo, your whole ship should go bye-bye. It really should. So, yeah. So as you can see, overall I enjoyed the movie. There was just a whole bunch of little stuff that just annoyed the crud out of me. It really did. Really, really did. But I guess that's about it. Anyway, I would still, you know, recommend it for video, or if you're watching it at a second run movie, it'd be something worth picking up. So anyway, that's Star Trek Into Darkness. Until next time, have a great day.